If you didn't sell, it's because of you, probably not because of them. Okay, always take that position. Otherwise, you lose all the control and you'll just find an endless amount of people to blame. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Ryan Federico, Ashton DeLangoLunday, the How to Sell Insurance podcast, coming back to you with another tip. Today, we are going to be talking about the pregame, which is also just practice, preparation, the things that actually make you perform better. And there's a lot of P's floating around here: pregame, practice, preparation, perform, perfect. Anyway, let's break it down. So what we really want to dive into is, when you set an appointment, how are you preparing yourself to sell? Maybe you're not. Maybe you're just kind of showing up and hoping that they buy, and that's probably why they're not, right? So how are you preparing? How are you practicing? How are you going over the options and the game plan for the appointment? What's your strategy when you go into an appointment? And I'll jump in on this, and then I want to get your take on it, Ashton. But I just know for me, whenever I would set an appointment, or whenever I do set an appointment, today I think I have a little bit more experience where I do a little bit less of this, and it's probably why I don't sell it as high of a percentage as I did before. But when I set an appointment, I always look at, okay, what's going to be the most likely scenario for this person? So let's say I've got a woman who's single. She's got a couple of kids. Her children are the beneficiaries of the house, or something like that. What's going to be the most likely product for this person? Or they're 75 years old and they're retired. They're on a fixed income and they're really just looking for a final expense policy. What's going to be the most likely type of policy for this person, so I can prep myself to sell that policy? What happens when I have a 75-year-old with COPD who's got a $400,000 30-year mortgage, which happens all the time? I need to be able to game plan and prep. How am I going to pitch a final expense policy to that person to make it palpable, so that they feel like that final expense policy is a better option for them than what they have today, which is nothing? Knowing full well they're going to be coming into the appointment going, I want $400,000 because that's how much my mortgage is. And they don't know that they're 75 with COPD. So, $400,000 is going to be nearly impossible to get for them. But how do we prepare ourselves and practice running through an appointment so that we get the best results when we do present those options to a client? So what are your thoughts, Ashton?
Yeah, I mean, one of those first parts is simply, one, what does that look like when you're setting the appointment for helping prepare for the appointment?
Yeah.
If the way that you set an appointment is only, hey, I'll see you this day and this time, it's going to be a little bit harder to prepare going in, because you can see anything. You just know that this person is alive and breathing. So it's going to be a little bit harder to prepare. So if that's the way you're booking your appointments, that might be the first thing you need to look at. I'll be going, hey, I don't even know how to prepare for an appointment, because I'm never going to know what type of health they're in to know what we're going to do, besides maybe just the simple term or whole life based off of age, not even health. So that's kind of the first preface. But then the second part is, the way you prepare is when you have that health information, it's how do you go about seeing what they qualify for? And that's the first part that we have to look at, because maybe you have a 55-year-old, but they don't have good health. So you're thinking, hey, I got a 55-year-old, I got all their medications, everything. I didn't even check any agent guides or applications, but I'm going to go write this term policy for 20 years to take care of their mortgage. But then you fill out the application and you find a bunch of yeses, and the application says, hey, if they say yes, they're not approved, or hey, it's a decline, or we need a medical exam now if they say yes to this. But you didn't know that, and you didn't prepare to go, hey, here are the options. That first part in preparing for the appointment is, what can they actually qualify for based off of reading an application and reading the agent guide. So if we get that and we go to the application and say, yes, we got to get the agent guide.
Totally. And you make a great point too. I see a lot of times new agents who aren't preparing with how to fill out an application, right? So guess what? You have access to the applications. You can fill one out on yourself. Now, don't submit it to the insurance carrier, right? Because then they're going to start underwriting it. But you have the power to go through the application that you're about to take this client through if everything goes to plan the way that you want it to go. Write the application on yourself. Understand the questions that are going to be asked. Send yourself the signature email so that when your client gets it and your client goes, I don't know where to click, you can go, oh, I just did this. You click on this and you type this in and you click here and you see these. Understand the process that you're about to walk them through and prepare. This is all in your control. You have all the time in the world after you set an appointment in the evening, in the morning, running up to that appointment to get yourself prepped to know what you're going to tell them, how you're going to build rapport, how you're going to establish value with them, how you're going to explain the product, what you're going to offer to them as far as pricing goes, how you're going to explain the pricing, and then most importantly, after they pick one, how to fill out the application and actually get it submitted, right? So you have all of that control. And I think the second piece that I really want to dive into with you, Ashton, is to compare insurance agents with professional athletes, because we do a lot of the same things. Now, we probably don't all look like professional athletes, and most of us, don't perform in sports like professional athletes do, but a lot of the processes are the same. Professionals practice more than they play. Think about, an NFL team or something like that. They spend 6 days a week practicing, reviewing game film, doing walkthroughs. Think about a basketball player, right? What are they doing? That basketball player is spending 30 minutes, 45 minutes taking free throws and warm up shots and stuff like that before the NBA game. And like, they've been playing basketball since they were, 6 years old, for goodness sakes. Like they probably don't need to warm up. Why aren't they saving their energy for the game? Because they want to get in a rhythm and they want to practice their shots and make sure it's second nature. And so I think that if we think about a professional athlete, the football team, let's just say, they play a game. First thing they do on Monday morning is they watch game film. Why? The game's over, right? They already played the game. Why would they watch game film on Monday morning? Doesn't make any sense. Well, because they want to review how to get better this week. They want to understand where things went well so they can keep doing it, and where things went terribly so they can stop doing that. They get the input from the coaching staff. And are you doing this as an insurance agent? Are you doing this? Are you recording yourself in your sales presentation? If you're selling over the phone, are you popping up Zoom and just recording your conversation, and so that you can send something to your mentor so that you can review the game film? Are you listening back to it? Are you getting input? Like, how are you preparing to run your next appointments? Do you even know where you're going wrong? Do you know the things you're doing incredibly well? Or are you just kind of flying blind into all of your appointments? And so if there's one thing to write down and put on your wall, it's professionals practice more than they play. And if you're not practicing and preparing 75% more than you're running appointments, you're missing the boat. You should be reviewing everything and getting better, and reviewing everything and getting better, and prepping and game planning and being at your peak performance level for that appointment when you meet with a client. I know sometimes it can be, I got an appointment at 9 a.m., so I roll out of bed at 8:30 and I kind of, brush my hair a little bit and I just stumble into the computer and I run that appointment. Those aren't going to go very well most of the time. So anyway, I've talked for long enough. What do you think, man?
Yeah, like you said at the beginning, preparation changes over time. How am I preparing and practicing for this appointment? It's going to be different. The more advanced you get, the different it's going to look. In the beginning, even when I'm running quotes, it took me an hour per client to run a quote.
Yeah.
Now it takes me 5 minutes. Even if I do it on the spot, it only takes me 5 minutes. And so that's where, unless there's a complicated health issue, and that's different, but that's where preparing it is going to change and develop and evolve over time. And in the beginning, it's going to be a lot more intense, and you're going to have to set aside a lot more time.
Yeah.
But that's what we talked about before. When you master one carrier or two carriers, your preparation time gets cut in half, because now I don't have to wonder, what are they going to get approved for? Or, hey, do they have this kind of issue here with their underwriting? I'm going to know those things, and I'm already going to be familiar with the app. And I'm like, oh, I know that this application asks a question specifically about diabetes in this way. So I already know, hey, they're approved, or hey, they're not approved. We got to go somewhere else. And so that preparation is going to change as you become more advanced. And that practice is going to look different as well. In the beginning, you're going to be well-versed. You've never run appointments before. You got to run through it a lot. And how you practice is going to determine how your appointment goes. And so in the beginning, it might look a lot like you hop on Zoom by yourself, whether you're doing Zoom appointments or not. But you hop on Zoom, you look at the camera, and you practice your presentation, and you click record on Zoom. And now you have this playing back to you exactly how you would be talking to a client.
For sure.
Whether you're in person, on Zoom, on the phone, however it is, you can record yourself.
Look, I want to make a point about this, man. Like, I have sold over $1 million of premium in my career, right? So I've done a lot of premium, and I still need to do this, right? Like, there's a set of steps that we have that we know when we follow these steps, we end up with a sale. It works every single time. I do this, then I do this, then I do this, then I do this, then I do this, they buy. And most of the time when I end up without a sale, it's because I missed one of those steps. Now, it's real easy for us as, human beings to go, oh, they didn't have money, rather than I didn't build enough value. It's real easy for us as clients to go like, oh, they were just shopping, rather than I didn't find their concern. It's really easy for us as an agent, as human beings, right, to go like, oh, make some excuse. It's the lead source, or they just moved into the house, or they just weren't ready, or their sister sells insurance or whatever, and take away from the fact that I didn't get them emotional, right? I didn't find the real reason why they wanted to buy insurance. I didn't create the urgency. I didn't present prices that were easy for them to understand, and my options were confusing. I didn't cover the think about it to make sure they weren't telling me they thought it, they didn't think about it. Like, we need to be able to truthfully and honestly evaluate ourselves to get better. If we're not willing to evaluate ourselves, we're just going to blame everything and everybody. There is an unlimited amount of things that you can blame, and you will never get better. And so
absolutely,
I want to be able to have control over the things that I'm deficient at so that I can get better at them. So I think that one of the things that I did, I kept an appointment journal. And I was running 5, 6, 7 appointments a day. And so sometimes it would be real difficult. I would find myself with my mentor going, how do I get better? How do I sell more? How do I write more products? And I couldn't remember 5 appointments ago, the appointment that I ran, because there was so much. And so after every appointment, I have my little journal, and now it's an iPad that I use the Apple Pencil and I write all my stuff in, but it was a journal, and I jot down a couple notes. And I know there's a couple things that I need to hit on. Did I get to the real emotion of why they wanted to get insurance? Did I present an option that was affordable to them? Right? Did I build enough value? Did I create enough urgency? And, did I ask for the business enough times? And so I have this little checklist, and I can just reevaluate in 30, 90 seconds to go like, you know what? I really didn't get them emotional. I didn't have a real strong need for them to get insurance. Or, I really didn't build any urgency about them getting insurance right now and us applying for an application today. Or, you know what? I really didn't. When I presented the options there, they were probably pretty confused. And so I just write a couple notes down. And what happens is at the end of the week, when I go back to 15 appointments and I'm sitting with my mentor and I can spend an hour, I can notice a trend. Wow, man, 7 of those appointments that I didn't sell, I wrote down the same note. Didn't really build value or didn't build urgency. So, hey, what are some ways that I can build more urgency? And now I'm getting input from a third party. We're watching game film. We're looking back at those appointments, and I know how to move forward next week, getting better, right? And it's so important for us to be in that position to take notes and to evaluate our role, right? And I know that that's something that you do, right, when you go back and you watch yourself running appointments. But what are some of the ways that you're, seeking wisdom from people, or that you're adjusting how you run appointments based upon the notes that you're taking from each appointment?
Yeah, the first thing that I always go back and base my appointments off of, is especially when I'm preparing, is what kind of questions am I going to ask in this appointment? If I'm preparing, if I'm practicing, I want to know exactly the questions I'm going to ask. And they're the same in every appointment. Now, you might have follow-up questions that are going to be specifically based upon their answers, but you're going to have a baseline of questions you always ask.
Sure.
I'm going to have some questions that I ask about why they're looking for coverage that are always going to be the same. It's not going to vary based off of, what kind of coverage they want, how much money they have, how much money they don't have. It's not going to change based off of that. I'm always going to have a baseline of at least 5 questions that are always going to be the same.
Yeah.
So when I'm preparing and practicing going into that appointment, I need to know what those questions are. And I need to practice how I say them. When do I say them? Do I say that as soon as they pick up the phone, or do I say it right here in this certain spot in the appointment?
Yeah. When they're getting emotional, I deliver it there, or whatever, for sure.
Yeah. And so that's how I'm going to go back and base my appointments of going, how well did I ask these questions? If I didn't make a sale, my question first is going to be, well, why did that client need coverage? And if I can't go through my questions and answer my why questions well enough, that I didn't do it good enough in the appointment.
Man, and that's one of the first questions I ask agents who call me. I'm not selling, I don't know what I'm doing, or, hey, I just got off of an appointment and they didn't buy. And I'm like, okay, cool. Why did they need insurance? What would have been the reality for them if they didn't have insurance? What are they going to do with their house? How are their kids going to go to school? How long would they be able to stay in their current living environment? And if they don't have the answers, I'm just like, look, you didn't build enough value. Like you don't even know why they need insurance. You did not get them emotional. They're nowhere near the level that they're going to have the urgency to buy. And there are some questions that I know I need to ask these in every appointment just because I've run so many. 2 examples of that. Number 1, what have you guys already looked at? What have you already seen? Why do I ask that? Like, what have you already seen? Well, because a lot of times if you're an agent and that's presenting options and you're not getting people to buy, maybe it's because they're considering a $17 per paycheck policy from their work, and you showed them a $78 policy from, a simplified issue insurance company. And they're like, well, I can get this from, for $30 from my job. And you don't even know that. You never ask them what else they're looking at and what other agents they met with and what other products they've seen. And that they talked to their bank, and their bank sent them a letter about life insurance, and they're going to get that $30 a month life insurance from their bank. And they don't know that there's exclusions, and they don't know there's no living benefits, and they don't know that if they leave their job that they're not going to have that coverage anymore, and that, work coverage is notorious for not paying out. They don't know any of that. And you can't make those points unless you're asking that question. And you don't even know that when they're telling you they're going to think about it, it's because they, are considering a different option because you didn't ask. So that's one question that I love to ask. Another one is, who do you know that's had something like this happen to them? That's had a stroke unexpectedly, or a heart attack unexpectedly, or who's died unexpectedly, or been in a car accident unexpectedly. And that gets them into the emotion. Oh, that happened to my sister. Oh, it happened to my uncle. Wow. What happened to them? What did they have to do? What kind of insurance coverage did they have in place? And I'm digging into an emotional subject. If I don't get them emotional and they don't have any real tangible examples of it happening in their life with people that they know, we're just talking in theory. And I don't like, if I asked a 30-year-old and just went, hey, what would it look like for you if you died? They don't think they're going to die. Right. So it's like they're giving you an answer, but it's not real to them. But like, hey, who do you know who's died unexpectedly? Oh, my best friend, or my uncle, or my dad, or my grandparents. Wow, what happened? Now they know that they're, in their own words, it's realistic because it happened to somebody in their life. Right. So if I'm getting to the end of appointments and I'm not selling and I'm writing down these notes and I'm watching the game film and I'm preparing for my next appointments, my mentor and I are going over, wow, man, I'm not really asking these questions. There is no way that person saw the value in this coverage because I just kept them logical and I didn't get them emotional. Right. And if you're not doing this, if you're not recording yourself, if you're not writing down notes, if you're not game planning and having a strategy for each appointment you go into, you're missing the boat. Just flat and simple. You're just not going to sell very much.
Yeah. And that's the important part, making sure to really not only prepare, but practice and asking those key questions and being able to draw out the reasoning from them. Now, you might think you know the reason. Hey, they filled out a request because they don't have something or they don't like what they have. The end.
For sure.
And that's great. That might be the reason. It really might be. But you have to have them come to that conclusion on their own. And even if they have, remind themselves of it. And, we're not going in here and trying to create something that doesn't exist. And that's the first thing I tell every single one of my agents. It's not that we're asking these questions to try to manipulate a client or because trying to create a need that doesn't exist. Because if you go through that questioning and you're like, well, I don't see a reason why we need coverage. Yeah, they probably don't either. And you're just going to save yourself the extra 20 minutes you're about to make, doing your pitch. Because if you don't, that's where the sale is made. Asking those questions there is where that sale is made. Yeah. And going through that and going, hey, do we even have a need? Why are you looking for coverage? Why are you looking now? What's happened?
Yeah. Have you practiced asking these questions? Right? Like, have you gone through the repetition and the practice, just like we gave with the sports teams that run through drills and run through their plays, and the day before the game, the NFL teams in the conference room of the hotel in their pajamas doing walkthroughs of the plays at walking speed. And do you know what questions you ask clients on a consistent basis to build value? Do you know what questions you ask clients on a consistent basis to build rapport? Do you know what questions you ask clients on a consistent basis to build urgency? If you're not building rapport and you're not building urgency and you're not building value and you're getting think about it, it's probably because you're not practicing asking these questions. And so that's the moral of the story. Just to recap, make sure that you are preparing to run an appointment just like a professional sports player prepares to play a game. You should be practicing more than you're actually playing and running appointments. Number 2, review the game film, review the game tape. Make sure you're recording yourself, or you're recording yourself making calls. You're recording yourself, setting appointments. You're recording yourself running appointments. And if you want to keep an activity journal like I did, then have a coach, a mentor, an upline, something like that, review it with you. Somebody who's successful. Please don't take advice from people who are not more successful than you. Just somebody who's successful that you want what they have and you respect their opinion. Have them be watching the game tape with you and suggesting ways that you can get better. And then number 3, just make sure that you are prepped with consistency. You know what you say at certain segments of each appointment. You ask the same questions in the same way, and you typically get the same answers so that you can identify, wow, I missed asking this question, and that's why I didn't get a sale on this appointment. So remember, if you didn't sell, it's because of you, probably not because of them. Okay, always take that position. Otherwise, you lose all the control, and you'll just find an endless amount of people to blame. We're going to keep coming back to you with fresh content every single week. Once again, How to Sell Insurance Podcast. Like and subscribe. Hit that little bell so you know when we're releasing new content. And we will be coming to you live and direct next week. See you guys later.